example of osteoporosis for me is fantastic because being a middle-aged woman, I know that they say you have to lift weights because you gotta fix your calcium to the bones. So the bone tissue is the cells are very susceptible to environmental. We're talking about exercise and having pressure on your bones will help you have healthier bones. So the bone really, really can change. It's very susceptible to small, long, sustained forces. Any orthodontist knows that. That's a buzzword because when we're moving teeth through the bone, we say we got to put a little bit of pressure, not too much, but very consistent. So this brings me to what we are recommending for parents, which is forwardontics, and we call it forwardontics. It's based on orthotropics, which was what Dr. Mew came up with about 50 years ago, and it's all the techniques that will help the teeth develop in a better jaw. So what we do is we actually change the jaw to fit the teeth. Orthodontics traditionally changes the teeth to fit whatever jaw we have, and forwardontics brings the jaws forward, opens up the airway so we can breathe better, but it brings everything forward. And forwardontics has three different priorities. Number one, what we do is what I just said. We arrange the jaws to fit the teeth, not the other way around. So we are going to focus on the jaws and the face, not on the teeth. The teeth are secondary. And then what we do is we change the habits. We want to change the environment. So if there's a problem, the teeth don't have enough room, something caused this problem. So either the kids are not chewing enough. Of course, most of the time we cannot go back and breastfeed them, but we can teach them with exercises to develop the strength. We can teach them how to chew. We can tell parents what types of foods and how to deliver food to the children. And we have programs like the GOPex program that teaches kids how to breathe better through their nose, how to rest their jaw, but changing those habits in that environment is critical. So, in forwardontics, most of the work is done by the parents and the children, not by the clinician. And the third thing that we do is we use mechanics that bring everything forward. We use the appliances like the bow, and we use appliances like the expanders, but everything pulling forward. So we develop this very nice faces. And this is a kind of a difficult topic for us to go into because it's very controversial to talk about appearance, but jaws that are forward and faces that are very full are very attractive. And there is research that has talked about being attractive, having the nice face. It will affect the way that we're treated and the quality of our life.
Attractiveness is a function of what society you belong to, but in general, strong jaws are considered attractive in virtually all societies. No societies like a small lower jaw. This is a place where appearance, particularly, of course, the appearance of whether the teeth are crooked or not, can tell you something about about what's likely to happen or is happening to an individual. The dentists have a term called, I believe it's long face, which comes from this general dropping of the jaw and mouth breathing, which again, Caitlin 150 years ago understood was a bad idea. By the way, the term wisdom teeth is simply a recognition of the changes wrought by this huge environmental change, because the wisdom teeth are just the last teeth in your row of molars, and they don't occur. There are no such things as wisdom teeth in hunter-gatherer skulls because they have full mouths and full mouths full of teeth. So wisdom teeth, the very existence of the term, implies that jaws are getting smaller. And of course, we've had several thousand years for the jaws to shrink, and anthropologists have shown this very nicely, but they've also shrunk in the last few hundred years. You excavate a cemetery in Denmark and measure the jaws of people 300 years ago and compare them with current skulls, and there's shrinkage even in that period. Remember, evolution only goes on in generation time and requires huge selection pressures to change things dramatically, and there's not been anywhere near enough time for the genes of the Danes to change in those couple hundred years. It's just that they are eating more and more soft foods, as far as we can tell. Amazingly enough, with the huge literature we have on the nutritional quality of food, we found almost nothing on the toughness of food. We wanted to find out when the foods got softest. It was a steady stream from the time we settled down to practice agriculture, or were there some sudden steps? Was the invention of the meat grinder a big deal, and so on? But we really have had trouble finding those data. We need to know much more about how we eat in addition to what we eat.
Well, that brings me to another controversial topic, and that's obesity. We think that, we know in our society we're focusing on the fact that our children have an epidemic. They're obese, they're gaining a lot of weight, and sometimes the sleep physicians, the doctors, are focusing in obesity as the culprit. And we can see that obesity is a problem, but we don't know if this obesity problem is actually a consequence. When kids can't breathe, or even adults, they say, well, you're obese, but are you obese because you might not have the energy to have the activity that you need to have in order to not be obese? And you might not have the energy because you can't sleep well. So it's a circle, and sometimes we think obesity is what we need to focus on, but we think that having the energy and having a better airway, being able to sleep better and breathe better and keep our mouth closed, will give kids the energy to not have this problem. And also, if we focus on chewing non-processed foods and chewing a lot and harder foods, that will have an impact in the obesity epidemic, because part of what's causing the problem is all these sedentary lifestyles and the refined sugars and all the processed foods that the children are eating. So chewing is going to really help in so many ways, and obesity is one of them.
We're moving to a liquid diet almost. How many of you have had a really tough piece of steak, grabbed it with your teeth and sliced it off with a knife in recent years, and then chewed it for half an hour? Hamburgers are damn near liquid. But look, we've thrown a lot of stuff at you. It's a huge problem. It's got some very interesting characteristics, though. For example, climate disruption is a huge problem. There's lots of things we should be doing about it and aren't, but there's essentially nothing we can do to protect our children from it. This is a huge problem. It's a big social problem where we have to change all kinds of things in society if we're going to solve the problem at that level. But as we've just explained, you can also solve the problem for your children by going directly at the issue with them. But I think we should probably let you ask questions now after saying one thing. We have a gigantic Ehrlich plan to become hated by parents. And that is, we're going to encourage kids to chew gum, because that's one thing that could help their jaw development.
Well, I do like to inspire you guys, because what we really need is an army of parents that are going to demand treatment early of their children. You need to have a clinician, a forward honest, that you will take your child at 4 years old and he will give you a 52 treatment plan. 52 teeth includes the wisdom teeth, includes the baby teeth. So they have to give you a full story. And then you also have to have society be part of it. Like Paul said, this is one place where you can make a difference. There's a lot of things that you really need to wait for society to change. This is a place where you can change your microcosm. You can go out and demand that daycares give out better food, that they give time for children to chew properly, learn how to chew, and you can demand a lot of things in your society with other parents, with other children, and to do less extractions and not accept treatments that are going to push things back. So I always ask your clinician to do things to, make the jaws bigger and the airway bigger. So you can do things, and you need to go out there and demand them, because society, the way that, comfortable people are just dealing with symptoms for our children, are not going to be conducive to prevention. Prevention is complicated, and it has to really be driven by parents. So with that, I thank you for being here. I think this is a wonderful thing, and I think the parents today are ready to go out and demand better care for their children.
Amen.